Hi, everybody. Welcome. I see some familiar faces and some familiar names. Hi, Michelle. Hi, Lori. Hi, Marivi. Am I saying that correctly? I hope I am. I saw that you had tried to connect earlier, so I'm so glad. And you're from Spain. Wow, fantastic. We do have some Spanish people from Spain, not just Spanish North American, but Spanish from Spain in our membership. So that's great to see. This is a place I plan to visit very soon. Hi, Anne. Welcome. Hello. Wherever you're connecting from, please put it in the chat. I'd love to see and know where you're all from. We were just talking about the weather. And I'm telling everybody that we are starting to get a little cool here. So today was about 65 degrees outside, if you're Fahrenheit. For those of you who are Celsius, it's about 15 degrees or so, 15 or between 15 and 20. Not overly cold, but definitely not perfect. I would love it to be warmer for a while. And is it still hot in Florida? Yeah, Michelle, I know that
Yeah, we hit 90 yesterday.
East and West coasts are very hot in the US, sounds like.
Yeah.
Texas very hot,
Yeah.
I've been told. Well, I'm so excited to have you all here today. We've got quite an agenda of things that we're going to cover, and I have been very nervous today.
Oh, don't be nervous.
I'll try not to be. I think once I'm demonstrating, I'll be okay. I have a few sort of slide-ish things that I was going to kind of start with just to get me warmed up. I didn't get a chance to do a slideshow, but I do have a few things kind of queued up in preview here on the Mac. I'm on my big Mac. And so I can probably share a few things. I don't know how many of you know me, actually know me. I am definitely recognizing some names here. Lovely to see a few Canadians here. Welcome. So Virginia, you're from Calgary. I'm going to Calgary next week.
Wow.
Yeah, my auntie turns 100. So we're
Wow.
going we're going to take my mom who lives with us to her birthday party. It's not too far
That's a
to
big
drive.
event.
It's a big event, but we can drive there in a day. It'll be a tough, long day, but we will get there. And all of my sisters will be there, and the four of us are so rarely together that I can't wait. And my Auntie Jill is my favorite auntie of all time, so I can't wait. Don't tell anybody. Won't tell the other aunties. Hi, Nancy. Hi, Carmen. Hi, Sherry, Daniela. Welcome, welcome. Okay, should we get this party started? What do you think? How many of you know me? Or you're just joining? Yeah, I see if you know me. Okay. This is not allowing me to access my screen at the moment, so I will just have to tell you my little story. First of all, if you're wondering why I love doing greeting cards, I'll tell you, they're fun and they're easy and they're small. So I really enjoy creating greeting cards because it just gives me that sense of satisfaction really quickly rather than working on a huge project. Like if I'm working on a fabric collection or something for a client, it just seems so much more fun and easy to do something small. So I have been creating greeting cards for probably 25 years or so. And one of the things that I was, I guess the very first time, I'm just pitting myself, Lindy, to be full screen, but I started creating greeting cards by hand, like many people do. And I would add my artwork onto the front of some really fancy paper. And that's how I made my cards initially. And most of the time, they were just artwork. So I, for the longest time, was creating my artwork that way with no lettering or anything involved. And one day I decided to include a quote on some artwork that I had created in Corel Painter. And when I went to the store to pick up my consignment check that I got at the end of each month, the lady at the store said, the stuff that you have with quotes on it is really selling. So you should make more of that. So that's when I started to do that. And that's sort of where I started to transition into creating um, multiple cards by printing the artwork and then gluing them onto the fronts of the cards. Eventually, I also moved away from that and into just doing full-size cards through a printer. The first time I did it was through a local printer, and I got the cards printed and started to sell those in the stores. So those are kind of the first two or three things that I did when it came to selling greeting cards. And then we started to do craft sales when I was raising three girls and on my own, and I needed to make some extra money. So I started to do craft sales. And at the craft sales, we also found that the cards were what was really selling. Cards and magnets were our two number one sellers. So I started to do many more cards, and every year we added more cards to our line because we get asked for them. People would ask, we wouldn't have any birthday cards, and somebody would ask, "Do you have a generic birthday card?" So, of course, that's what we'd add the following year. I know a few of you have heard all these stories, so I'm trying to make them as brief as possible. Lindy, interrupt me if I'm taking too long to explain. Um, but the one thing that happened to me at a craft sale, which was a super terrible craft sale, I wasn't making any money, but it was super quiet. And some people came into my booth and started to read through and look at all of my cards that were there. And it was so dead there that we eventually struck up a conversation, and they asked me a lot of questions about the cards. And one of the cards that the lady picked up was something to do with saying goodbye to your mom, so a sympathy card. And she literally welled up with tears as she was reading it. And after speaking to them for a few minutes, they asked me, would I be interested in selling in stores? Would I ever be interested? And of course, I said, yes, I have actually sold a little bit in stores here and there. But they were thinking on a much grander scale. And it turns out that they own three Hallmark stores here in Manitoba. And the rest is history, basically. They made some big orders. I think the first order they made from me was about $1,800. And then there was two smaller orders. And then they asked if they could get me set up with one of their manufacturers so that they could mass produce the cards. So at that point, I was put in touch with the company called Amrams, which was the Canadian division of Russ Berry. So if you look up Russ Berry, it still exists. It's the teddy bear company. And that the people from Toronto, who were the ones that were going to be working with the Hallmark stores here in Canada, they flew out to Winnipeg and we met, and they had asked me to bring all of my stuff. So I had trucked in a couple of boxes of stuff, examples. We went into a boardroom and I set all my stuff up on the table, and they immediately started to pick out the ones that they liked. And I still was kind of a little bit unsure of what this deal was going to be all about. Give me a second. Because I didn't know anything about art licensing at the time. So it turns out that they offered me a 5-year license or contract, and the 5-year contract would give me 5% of any of the sales that they made of my product. So they took samples of all my products that they wanted, and they put together what they called an everyday line of cards. So we'll be talking about that everyday line throughout the challenge. You'll hear about that a little bit more because that's the kind of collection that is really good to start with and really good for any artist to have. So they took all of these items and put them together. So there was things like thank you cards, sympathy cards, grandma cards, mom card, just like a bunch of general things. And I think I have a list of them at some point that you'll get if you're in the challenge. And that's what I did for my very first line of anything that was licensed. So this was like I didn't even know about art licensing at that point. And I didn't know what the payoff would be. And even when I asked them, they were pretty vague about it. They didn't really have any way to tell me how much money I could possibly make. But the way it works, and the man was very kindly explaining it to me, nothing happens until you make a sale. So until your product sells, you make nothing at all. So, that was kind of weird for me because I had been used to like literally, here's your card, thanks, I'll take your money. That's how it was when you're at craft sales or you're selling, that's how it works, right? So this was a little bit weird for me, but the wait was several months. We're talking 6 months before I ever got paid because all of this had to be manufactured. So they had it manufactured in China or wherever. And then they also had to build all of the displays, which I wish I could, I'll try to share later, but they built all these displays. Then all of the product was loaded onto the displays and then the stores could buy them. So that local Hallmark store here got some of my stuff and all stores across North America got a bunch of my stuff. And I was so shocked when I received my first check. It was for $16,000. Yeah, I felt the same way. I was unbelievably shocked. And, that was the beginning of ended up being a 4-year relationship because in the fifth year, that company went bankrupt. But my stuff was still continuing to sell in the US and in Australia and in Europe. So that was my first taste of what greeting cards and products like magnets could do for me. And of course, I spent 4 years then working with them as almost like their house artists, just producing. They would tell me what kind of lines, like they would do a for her line, which would be, always kind of around Mother's Day. They would do it for him. Sometimes we did devotional, beautiful prayers, anything that they knew that they could sell. So that is how I started my career as a greeting card artist. Fast forward to today, I am not licensing my cards at the moment. I have a lot of things prepared, ready to go, but I have broken ties with one of my agents. I have been working just with agents, and I didn't like the kind of work that I was getting. In fact, I wasn't getting any work through them. So what I'm going to be doing now is my own pitching of my greeting card line. And I've got several lines, new lines that I will be pitching. But the way I sell my cards right now is through a site called Cardile. So Cardile is it's not really a print on demand site. It's a site where you as a customer can go in and just buy a card and have that card sent to whoever. Am I saying the right thing there, Lindy, basically?
Yeah, so there's two versions. Yeah, there's one where the card gets sent directly through a florist, and or you could pick up a card from a participating florist. And then the second part of that is the newer iteration where now you can purchase and have them actually sent directly to a recipient. So they'll stamp it, they'll mail it, and they'll put that nice message and send it out on its way.
Thanks, Lindy. Okay, so for everybody who doesn't know, Lindy is my community manager. So you've maybe seen her name pop up in the Facebook group. And Lindy is one of my success stories. So I'm so excited that she works with me and she will be the guest speaker tomorrow. So for anybody who has signed up for VIP, Lindy will tell you her entire story going from pretty much zero in sales to where she is today. Now, all of us who have been with Cardile for a while, and I've been with Cardile for over 10 years. Okay, I'm just being told my internet connection is unstable. Is it still okay?
I think you briefly froze, but you're back now.
Okay. Um, with where was I? I was talking about Cardile. Oh, since they've amalgamated with 1-800-Flowers, we have seen an uptick in our sales. So that is a good thing. So those of us who were already selling that way, we just make a little bit more money now. So that's great. So there are the two ways to make money with greeting cards. Well, three ways to make money with greeting cards. There's making or doing in-person sales like I do and or did, like Lindy does. She does sell in person. We have several other artists in our group who sell at in-person sales. So that's the one way. The other way is through POD or through places like Cardile. And by the way, that 1-800-Flowers is also connected to like Godiva Chocolates and a few other places like that. And what happens is your card comes up. Well, when people go to send flowers or to send chocolates or whatever, at the end, they can do an upsell for a greeting card that would accompany their delivery. So that's where our cards will pop up. So that's how that works with that part of the Cardile site. It's now been bought out by 1-800-Flowers. So even if you hear me talking about Cardile, I'm now talking about 1-800-Flowers. So I might get the two mixed up every once in a while. That Cardile site still exists exactly as it is. So those of you who are doing the challenge, I think the 5th day is uploading to Cardile. It still works the same way. They have had a little bit of a transition issue with getting cards uploaded quickly, but it still works exactly the way it did last year or the year before. Okay, so that's two ways, kind of three ways to sell cards. And the fourth way is by licensing your cards. So on Thursday, we're going to have special guest speakers, somebody who is very dear to my heart, another Canadian French girl, just like me, and her name is Vanessa, and she has the Art Business with Ness. So if you have not seen her YouTube channel, make sure you check it out. So it's called Art Business with Ness. You'll hear more about it this week. She's going to come on and talk to us all about licensing and how to get your art licensed and put onto, cards and into stores. So she does work for places like Hobby Lobby. So that's just so you know how legit she is, but definitely check out her YouTube channel. Okay, so um what else am I supposed to be talking about, Lindy? This week.
Um, yeah, I think you're gonna go on to your week at a glance now. And I think what I find so remarkable about your story, which is such a good reminder also, is that you never know where opportunity is going to come from. And so it's so important to share your art, and it's so important to be part of communities. Like, we all are excited that you guys have chosen to join ours today, and so by sharing your work and putting it out there and building that confidence with your art, you just never know where that opportunity might pop up.
Thanks, Lindy. That's perfectly stated. It's probably something I should have said, and I always miss saying. Okay, so the VIP challenge is a little bit different than the free challenge this week. So I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about that. I didn't have the free challenge days in front of me. Lindy, is it possible that you could look and just list what's going on each day of the free challenge? I
Okay.
just wanted to tell you, I know a bunch of you here have signed up for the VIP. So today was all about getting set up and downloading resources. I did answer a lot of questions about downloading the resources. I had a couple of people ask me about uploading the Affinity Designer assets, and I can show you that real quick when I get into my demo. And then tomorrow in the challenge, we'll be talking about thumbnail sketches. So it'll be the same as what we're doing in the free challenge. We'll talk, in fact, it's the same video. I've updated the intro to it, but you'll both see the same video. And then for those of you who are in the VIP, there's additional video that really shows in depth the use of the templates in Procreate and the templates in Affinity Designer. Okay. I will quickly go through that today, but it's not going to be super intense. We'll do just a quick glance at both of them, just so everybody can ask questions if necessary. Then let's see.
Do you want the quick rundown of the free real quick while I have it
You
up?
go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. So of course, day one, it's all about thumbnail sketches. So you definitely should have seen that in your email today, and you would have gotten access to that video for today. And so be sure to share those sketches in the Facebook group so we can all see how everybody's progressing. Day two is mine your existing art. So this is a good time to kind of go through your iPad or go through your traditional media that you might have and see what you have available to use. And it's also how to use text frames and do a little bit of work on the typography and setting that up, which is a nice, good thing to kind of start thinking about. We got day three, and we're going to do, you're going to add some custom art, simple hand lettering, no perfection. We're going to kind of keep it nice and loose. So that's going to be great. Four, we're going to get your files all ready to go. So you'll be ready if you would like to print those, and also getting ready to have those ready for upload. So that'd be great. And then the last part of it is to get that work out there and get it listed on Card Isle. And so we'll give you all the details on that. So it's going to be a nice, good 5 days of lots and lots of information. So we're excited.
Yes, we are. We definitely are excited. On day 2, I think in the VIP challenge, I also give you a almost full lesson that I actually pulled out of the Procreate Affinity Designer Foundations that came specifically out of the module that I have in there for designing greeting cards. So in that foundations class, I have, I think, 8 lessons that take you from like you've not done any design on a greeting card before to at the end, you have a full collection. So there's one lesson in there that really talked about design. So in the VIP challenge, I popped that in there because I didn't want to re-record it. I didn't want to do any more recording. We'll also be working with existing art, and we'll do that in great detail. That's going to be the demo, which I'm going to start pretty much right away here in a second. And on day 3 in the VIP, then I've got a really extensive lesson on using the templates. And I'm going to be going through a lot of the templates. So you got 6 templates, but as a bit of a surprise to you guys, I actually have about 12 of them in total. So for those of you who did sign up for the VIP, you're going to get some additional templates. And then we'll talk also about recoloring, because I want to show you Procreate users why you might be interested in possibly coming over to the dark side and checking out the templates in Affinity Designer. And you honestly, you don't have to learn how to use all of Affinity Designer. I know it's a lot. But if you learn how to use the templates, you're going to see in a minute why that can be so valuable. So we'll talk, that was a good word, valuable, because they help you speed up your process. So if you are on like your goal is to get a bunch of cards done, especially at this time of year, because we're heading into Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, so many things coming up. This is a perfect time to start getting those cards done. So I'm going to be showing you how to do that really fast if you use a template. And then on day 4, we'll be talking more about tips and tricks for Procreate. So additional stuff, additional sort of ideas of how you can work with Procreate to get things done. So I wish that I could, let me try my screen again, see if I can share it. I'm going to just show you these real quick because we were talking about this. This is when I got my first contract with the Hallmark stores. So this was this first store, the one in Winnipeg, so the local store. And then this was the display they had set up with all of my stuff. Sorry, it's such low resolution. I don't have a better one of that. This is me doing a guest appearance, which was so weird, but at the store, people could come in and I could sign their work, my work that they bought. And this is just in another shop. There's actually 3 of them in Manitoba, so I was able to go to another one. And here I am just that we had that live. I was going to be there live and I demonstrated. You can see I've got my laptop there and my Wacom tablet, which is what I used to use for this sort of thing. So I will stop that share and I will share the card line that I've just completed. So any of you who were in my Procreate Foundations last year, this is the card line that I have now completed, which is going to be what I'm going to be pitching. So I just want to show you this. This is all done in Affinity Designer. I'll stop sharing that one. And then, I like to share this one because these are all cards that were made by participants in the challenge last year. This one here in the middle is by Lindy. So this is our Lindy, her beautiful design, all of her own hand lettering. This one is by Marquetta. Gosh, I don't remember who these others were. I think one of them is by Michelle Downs, but I don't remember which one. Anybody else recognize their cards here that want to just throw it in the chat? But these were all beautiful student pieces, obviously completely ready for sale. So I love all of these. They're also very different. Interesting fact, this card by Marquetta I had this graphic on one of my Facebook ads that I was doing, and this little Cupid guy, I actually got a warning that I couldn't use a little naked person in it. So eventually they approved it, but it was quite funny actually that was an ad that wasn't approved. But what I love about all of these different cards is just how different they are. So anything goes when it comes to greeting cards, any kind of artwork. You couldn't have more contrast than these 5 different cards here. Let's see. I think maybe I should start doing my demo. What do you think, Lindy?
Yes, I think that's a perfect time.
Would you talk for a couple minutes so that I
Sure.
could get set up here and go for a quick bathroom break?
Sure, no problem. Hey everybody. I just want to say I'm so glad that you're here, and that if you haven't joined the Facebook group, make sure that you join that, because that's where we'll be sharing all of our thumbnail sketches, all of the work that we'll be doing over the next week. And that way everybody can kind of meet each other, start some conversations, and it's a great place to ask questions, get any help, any of that going on. So make sure you're in there. So is there an alternative? We don't have an alternative right now for the Facebook group. I know that if you are in Dolores's membership, you can always take part of the conversation there in the circle community, and that's always available. So if you don't have Facebook, and then what I can do over in Circle is I can set up a little tab where if anybody wants to put information in there and kind of start dialogue in there, we can do that as well. So yeah, so I think with there's a question, sorry, in the chat. Sorry, I was reading that about the thumbnail sketches and how if they should be like Mother's Day related or if the occasion changes. I think a lot of times Mother's Day gets to be a huge focus when it comes to greeting cards, because Mother's Day is the biggest seller for greeting cards. And so that's why a lot of people focus their energy on Mother's Day. So you can never go wrong, even if it's not that time of year for Mother's Day, you can never go wrong with kind of looking ahead and kind of stacking that content, because it is one of the biggest card sales days ever. And I think it's followed up by Valentine's. So I think Mother's Day even outpaces Valentine's, if you can believe that. But it is. So that's okay. Sometimes it's a great place to start, because you know those cards would definitely have an avenue to be sold. So, but you can also work on other ones. There will be a list coming out of different occasions to kind of work on. I think Mother's Day is good. Sympathy is always good. That's another high sell, category there too.
Yes.
So
my biggest quarter from Cardile is always the second quarter. So it's after Valentine's Day. I don't do super great on Valentine's Day. I do okay, but I do really, really well on Mother's Day. So a good positive way to look at it right now is that you will be way ahead on Mother's Day if you start now. So you've missed it, but I never take it out of the challenge because it's my best selling time of year. Father's Day does pretty good, but Mother's Day is definitely, really, really high selling for me. Mother's Day and sympathy are my two biggest categories. So just so you know. Okay, I am going to switch to my iPad. So I will leave it pinned like so, and I think I've got it positioned okay. So these are the templates that you would have gotten. If you're in the free challenge, I'm not sure, did I give you 5 or 6? And if you're in the VIP, I think there's 10. Are you hearing me okay, everybody?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So these are the cards that I went through and created this week, kind of based on the different assets that I had created for this challenge. So these that you'll see, these frames here, like this text frame was one of the early bonuses. So that's one of the frames that's available. As far as the free bonus set that I gave to all the free people, this was the set that I gave you, and I did include a few different borders here for you. So if you haven't downloaded that one, that's the free set that was on the hub page for free, anybody who signed up for free. Now, one of the reasons I wanted to give the whole document to everybody, and I did that for all of them, is that I would like you to take a look at what I do and how I do it. So this is the one that I started basically from scratch because I was playing with the new brushes here in Procreate. So this is a very short time lapse, but I can show it to you real quick so that you can see it. And see, basically I was just scribbling on the background, adding the brushes, and then I added a bunch of the textures that I've included. I experimented a little bit, and then I put on the text frame and I individually colored the different parts of the frame. So in order to color the inside here, what I did, I can turn these off. I'm not sure how many of you are really avid Procreate users, but I'll show you really quick how to do just the coloring of the inside of the frame here. So I would go to the selection here, and I'm going to go to automatic selection. At the moment, I don't have color fill selected, but if I did, let's say I wanted to fill it with this color, I could do color fill, and as I drag, making sure that I'm on that layer, as I drag, oops, I've got a pattern brush. How did I do that? Okay, as I drag for selection, you can see that the threshold changes here and allows me to fill that area. So that's because I've got color fill selected. That's just one of the quick things I want to show you. I cover that in great detail in tons of my classes, so you've probably seen that before. But one of the things I wanted to show you was just, that sort of gradual buildup of all of the different parts. So there's the background with a bunch of different textures added. This definitely is mixed media look. I add a little bit of sort of, I don't know what you'd call that, punctuation to make it look a little bit more interesting. Then I start adding all of my greenery. Most of the time, I've already added my text frame in there because I feel like if I have that there, I can do a much better composition around the outside of my card. So that's basically the process that I would go through for the, this kind of card. And the cool thing about it is, I haven't showed it much on this one, but you can also go in on any of the stamps that you've brushed, or brushes you stamped, sorry, like any of the flowers or anything that is in the asset pack. So I gave you this free asset pack here. I could add a layer. I'll do that on top of everything and just stamp that brush on there. And that would be something that I add to my composition. This one's a little bit crazy, but as you start, and if you were on one, let's say like this, it doesn't have a lot of stuff, and you were to add it onto a new layer, you can see how that stamp could be used to just do a little bit of a filling around the frame itself. So I do recommend that you do your stamping on a separate layer. For example, here, The reason I would do it on a separate layer would be so that I could flip it and move it around. So what I'm looking at is the composition around the outside of the card here, or around the outside of the frame. I like to leave a lot of white space around the lettering that I do within these frames. So you'll never see me filling up that with text. I'll never go to the edges and make that text as big as possible. I think the more space you leave around it, the nicer the card is going to look. Does anybody have any questions as I'm showing you anything here in Procreate?
So we have two questions. We have, are the assets for personal use only? And then Nancy has a question about if the stamp brush is like adding an asset in Affinity Designer.
Yes. Okay. Sorry, my phone is ringing crazy. The free set here is for personal use only. So if you go and you buy the full brush set, so there's 3 brush sets that we have for this challenge, and the fall flower fiesta I think has 70 brushes in it, and if you buy it you can get the commercial license for it. So yes, you can get the commercial license for it. And Nancy, it is the same, and I'm going to be showing you both Procreate and Affinity Designer so that I can show you why you might want to use both. Okay, so let's just take a look at that for a sec. So let's go back to one of these painted flowers. Which one should we grab? Let's go to this one here. So let's say I've created this whole document here. I could take these flowers, so this big yellow flower here, that flower, I'm going to duplicate the layer. No, I can't because it's too many layers. I'm going to pinch it all together so that I can grab this flower. So I'm going to do a 3-finger swipe and copy. And then I'm going to undo that because I'm going to make a new document. There's one here I can use. I'm going to paste that flower. So just imagine that you've painted this in Procreate. I'm not going to make it much bigger, but let's say you've painted this flower in Procreate, and what you'd like to do is use this in a way that will make your job go faster because you want to make more cards and you want to make them quickly. You would make an asset and you could do it like this, or you could hand draw an asset, or you could use any stamp that you own and stamp it as big as you want. Let's go to a brighter color, and you can go into your brush settings here in Procreate and stamp much bigger if you want. What you would do, this is going to be pretty cool, is you make sure that your background is completely turned off, because what we want to do is bring these 2 elements into Affinity Designer so I can show you how the templates work, because I think that's where you're going to get really excited about Affinity Designer. First thing I want to do though is to make sure that I've cropped my document real close. So I'm going to go to Canvas here, and I'm going to crop and resize. So I'm bringing in the edges as close to my finished piece as possible. And I'm going to show you this with both of these flowers. So these are going to export separately. So you can do them individually, no problem, but I'm going to show it to you with these 2 separate. So we can bring them in and make a card almost instantly. I'll show you how. So here we're going to share. And I'm going to do this PNG files to share layers. Okay, so I've got 2 layers. I want to share them out as PNG files. This is going to ask me where I want to put them. I'm going to save them to files. I've got a spot where I've been saving all of my card related stuff in my master templates. And I've got this folder called card examples. Here I've got a whole folder of PNG elements, but I'm going to save these 2 so that you can see this whole process. And that's been exported. And now I want to go into Affinity Designer and show you why templates are so exciting. So it feels to me like this is really dark now. Does it look super dark?
I think you're still okay.
Okay, all right. When I look at it on my screen, it looks really dark. Okay, let's open this up. So this is one of the cards that everybody who got the VIP gets. So this is a template for Affinity Designer. And with this template, this is my simplest one, you can simply replace the element. So whatever element is here, you can replace it over here in the legend, and it's going to replace right like on this card in every place that you see it. So in every instance. So I've got this one here, but I could also place from files those two flowers that we just did, which were these two, right? I'm going to hit open, and then I can just drag to select or to place those two flowers. So I think this actually would be really nice. I'm going to move this one out of the way, but I think this yellow one would look really good on this template. But just imagine this, okay? We've got 4 flowers here. So imagine this is how you're going to really speed up your process. I don't know, this color looks just so yucky. Hang on. I want to change it. This is more, I hope that looks more teal to you. Okay, so what I want to do here is to put this one into this placeholder. So what I've done is I've got the placeholder here, right? So this is this flower here. I'm going to take this flower and just position it on top. Okay. I'm going to just slide that down so it's just above the symbol that I'm going to replace. Everybody ready? This is going to be so fun. Watch this.
Magic.
Ta-da! So that's my one card. I'm going to export this card, and then I'm going to...
Hang on a second. Can you pin your screen, because somebody laughed and then their face was on the screen
Oh.
while you were doing it. So it's sort of
I am happy to. I was going to do it 3 more times, actually.
good.
Actually, I am pinned here.
Yeah, you're
Okay.
pinned over here.
So Lindy, when
You
you
need
talk,
spotlight.
what
You need
happens is you
spotlight.
spotlight.
Okay, how do I do that?
I can let me
Oh,
do it.
spotlight. Here we go. All right, everybody ready? We're going to do it again. So here's my next flower. This one I'm going to try. So can you see here also that I have not gotten rid of that original? So I could pop that back on if I wanted to, okay? So here's the next one I'm going to do, this flower. So this time I'm going to drag it right onto the word symbol. At the moment, of course, it's not in position, but there you go. I've put it into position. I'm going to hide that yellow one, and I've made another card almost instantly. So the other thing I can do is I can select the rectangle in the background, and I can change the color of it, obviously just by dragging around. And imagine now how many things you could do and how quickly you could create cards by just changing the text and changing. And this is such a simple template. This template is super simple, but yet it's a little bit complex too, because what I've done is I've also left these leaves as strokes. So can you see that? I'm moving and changing the stroke to create a different type of leaf. This is the leaf I've got there right now, which looks pretty weird. But I'm going to reset the pressure here. Then I just only have kind of a amoeba shape, but I can make this into a pointy leaf if I want to, okay? So not only can you change the flower almost instantly, you can do the same thing with the stroke. I only had that one selected to show you, but it's really easy for me to now change all these others. You can just double tap and copy, and then just tap on the one you want to change and paste style. I'm showing you the absolute easiest way to do this because I want you to not be scared of using these templates. So imagine that. I hope that has kind of blown your mind. The other thing is that I can, if I want to now, expand the stroke on these. The branch is already, like the stem is already expanded, but I can take these leaves here and I can go and expand the stroke, and then I can add it together. And that is a nice solid little leaf structure that I can then save back to my assets if I wanted to, or I could start to paint or colorize. Even something super simple like a different gradient. Can you see the changes? You know, so let's say we went to that lightest color, the tip of the gradient, and changed it to be a light color. Can you see it changing over here? So I hope this somewhat blows your mind, because I think that all of this stuff that we're doing here is to show you how many ways you can change your design very, very quickly and easily. Now these assets that we've brought in, so let me put this one in here. These assets are not clickable like these are. So these are fillable. I'm going to smooth that out. These are fillable because they're vectors. These that you brought in from Procreate are not, but you can very easily change the color on them if you just put them into a group. So let's put this little one into a group. Actually, no, wait, this is even easier. Miss Jasmine taught me this. So one of my students taught me this. You can go to the effects and you can put a color overlay on it. The color overlay, hang on, click on the color overlay. The color is right here. You can barely see it because it's black. But here I could then go in and change the color of my asset. So this is something I've brought in from Procreate, but these are, like this one here is actually a vector asset that I have here in Affinity Designer. And this I could also change, add a gradient. I could paint. I could switch here real quick to the pixel persona. I don't have to go over to Procreate to do the painting. I can just come in here and let's grab a gouache. So just a very basic paint color. Let's go a little bit darker. And I could be painting in my little butterfly. I'm doing a pretty sloppy job here, but I could do that. But also, if my flower here was actually one of my assets, so let's bring in just a random flower. I'm going to do a colored flower. I do have a category here that I've already pre-colored. So if I was to insert a flower, let's do just kind of a plain one. This one has a texture on it, but I think I can get rid of it. Again, I'm just going to roughly resize it to the size that I need here, just to make it easier for myself. And I'm just going to drag it onto the word symbol there. So now it replaces everything. I can turn off that other one, can make it a little wee bit bigger here. And in here, I had a texture applied to this particular set of curves I can see. And I had done that really in a way that was a little bit, I would do it better, put it this way, if I did it now. I did those all separate. So now instead what I would do is have them all combined. But what I want to show you here is that if I had this flower here, I could actually go in and you can't paint it when it's in the legend, but you can paint it if you are on the main part of your screen here. So we could now take and start painting that flower as well. And I don't know if you can see this, but as I'm painting it, all of the other instances of that symbol are also being painted. And because it's not all on the artboard there, it's kind of cutting off. But as long as I move the whole thing onto the artboard as I'm painting it, I can move it back after, it's no big deal. But as I'm painting it, it's going to show up everywhere. So you can see, I'm hoping you can see from this why there are times when I would use Procreate, or I mean Affinity Designer. Even though I've brought in some Procreate assets here, I can still do everything I want to in this template. And that's just one of the templates. Like you guys are getting all of these templates, and I'll just really quickly show you them. So this is an example of a template as you would receive it, and here would be where you would replace your assets. It doesn't matter if they're Procreate or they're Affinity Designer assets, okay? And what I did with mine is I left this template so that you can go in and add your own leaves. So you would just go into the template. Let's add a new layer. And let me make sure my stroke is green-ish. And you could add your own, okay, I'm working in the wrong quadrant here. Hang on. Find the right quadrant. I could add my own leaves in here. So I've drawn a leaf there. I could still go in and change the shape of the leaf. Okay, so this is how I do it. And let me show you a finished example with that card. So check that out. Like, look how pretty this is. And look at the assets here on the side. These are all assets that I painted in Procreate. Okay, so I imported these from Procreate, completely painted. and then I place them. And you can see that if I were to move the butterfly, it moves wherever it's repeated. So I can get right into this flower, and you can see like it's not that many flowers, right? There's just a few things that have been put in here to make this out of this. So that's just one of the templates that you're getting. You're also getting this one, which I thought was really fun, this Ditzy Repeat floral, and I've done 2 or 3 cards with it. So you can see how cool that would be. Also, one of the fun things we did in our big class that I just had, the Mastering Surface Pattern Design class, is we learned how to create dotted lines, or not dotted lines, border brushes. And so the cool thing is these border brushes can be applied, and you can create all of those different things that you did in Procreate as stamps. But here in Affinity Designer, you can also change the width of it, which changes the size of that border. So I don't know about you guys, but I personally like working with both because they both have advantages. I do love working in Procreate for the painting. Some of those new brushes are absolutely delicious. I've just loved using them. The gouache that I used to paint this yellow flower here just was so blendy. It was super nice. I don't remember the name of it, but I do like painting in Procreate. And so this is where this is where I would have painted those watercolor flowers. So here's an example of a document that I've created that has all of those flowers. There was 20 of them in total, which I painted and then exported this in layers to bring into Affinity Designer so that I could create those kind of designs really quickly. So there's a double reflection is one of the templates. There's I call this one, I can't remember what I call it, outside border or something like that. Then I have this one that does opposite corners. I have done lots of examples of that. So the lessons this week will have the examples like this of all of the different ways that I've used that opposite corners layout. Okay, so that pretty much ends my demo. I am not sure if you guys might have some questions. I'm going to switch back, and I have to take a drink of water desperately. I guess I can remove the spotlight. And have we got any questions there, Lindy?
Yeah, so okay, they just want some clarification on the asset packs that were part of the VIP package. Now, when they're using these asset packs in the templates or making cards with them this week, and then they're going to upload those to Card Isle, do they need to buy a separate commercial license for that to be able to use them on Card Isle? Or is the asset pack and the VIP come with a commercial license?
It comes with a commercial license.
Okay.
I will write that out and add that into the description somewhere, just so that everybody is reassured that, yeah, this is one of my gifts to you, is that I want you to use them. I really want you to use them, and I really want you to have fun with them. And especially if you're in Affinity Designer, you guys, it's so easy to slightly change any of those vectors, right? They're all adjustable. So if you're using Affinity Designer, you can use them and change them. So the only time that it's going to be an issue for you is if you are going to be licensing. Licensing has completely different sort of specifications and reasons. You can't even within the same collection do the same flower on 2 different pieces. That could be an issue. So on Thursday, Ness will be with us, and she'll answer all of your questions about art licensing. So I hope you're there and take notes, because she'll definitely cover that really well. She has covered that well in coaching class that I'm in with her. So definitely think
And
about
would
that.
they okay, and the next question would be would they have gotten the template in today's day one email for the free users that were going to get a template? Where would they find that?
The templates were all the 6 templates were there. So
Okay.
they were all in the I think the very first, like in the set of downloadable assets.
Mhm.
I know a couple people have asked me about them, or there was one missing last night that I put in there. So I think we're all good now. So if you do run into any issues like that, definitely email me and I will make sure that you get it.
I think
And
a good question. So how many of you guys are familiar with Affinity Designer? How many was this, or was this your first time kind of seeing Affinity Designer in action? Brand new. Yeah. I think that's what's kind of so fun about seeing this. I know for me and my experience, seeing these templates in work is just kind of that game changer to one, speed up your workflow, two, to kind of just be able to really use every bit of art that you're creating, whether it is in Procreate, whether it's solely in Affinity. I think it really just gives you that opportunity to leverage all of that art to make not only greeting cards, but lots of other products as well.
yeah, we in the membership, I have a template club, and every month I publish a new template. And I was going to show you, I guess I could still do that. I was going to share this month's template coming up is going to be a template to create this Christmas decoration. And this decoration here works exactly the same way as the templates that I just showed you. So you're going to have a template where you can, here's an example. So this is the template you just saw, but this is me replacing it with all of these items instead. So you can, from the same template, create multiple wreaths with all of those pretty little flowers that you just created. And, this is something you can share on POD sites. So this particular one, I made specifically because we're going to be having Anywhere POD on Friday doing a short presentation for us. And they had done a presentation to me. And one of the things that they featured was a Christmas decoration. And so that kind of, you know, made me think, I should make one for my students. So in the template club of the membership is where you'll be finding that. I might sell it separately. I'm not sure. Usually when I sell the template separately, they'll be in my artist resources for $24.99. And I have just fallen terribly behind with actually listing them there because I just haven't got the time to merchandise them into a set.
Debbie had a question about your lettering that you have. Is that a font or is that your hand lettering? I know you do like I think your lettering is great. I know you feel like it's not, but I think it's great. So is that kind of that little bit of a combination between using a font, but then also coming on top of it and kind of creating something new?
The one on the left is a font, and
Okay.
the one on the right is my lettering. Now, for the stuff that I'm licensing, so that other stuff that I showed you, the card set, this one here, this is all my own hand lettering. And it's a very basic style. A lot of people do this one, and I'd love to get better at my hand lettering, but this is what I'm doing right now. So this lettering
I
I
think it's
did.
great.
Well, if I can do it both in Procreate and in Affinity Designer, and that's the one thing that I like is the fact that I can do it either way. If I do it in Procreate and I need it in Affinity Designer, then I might auto trace it, but I can draw this perfectly well in Affinity Designer with just a very blunt line. And I mean, I know a lot of you that are here are members already, and you know that I do cover a ton of these things in my classes. as well, like in the membership. So some of you may have already seen me demonstrate this hand lettering. The Affinity Foundations class, I do have a little bit about lettering in there too. So those are things that I do teach. So I've recorded 258 classes now. So that's how many classes I've taught. And I have a list of at least 20 or 25 that I still want to record. So I'm going to have to live for at least 2 more years to be able to get them all out there.
Okay, so we have another question from Lorraine, and she's asking about how do you come up with the text to put on the cover? Do you have a specific workflow when you're deciding what to put that's front and center to kind of draw people in?
I am not that good at that. I have to admit that I have stuck with a lot of the same phrases over the years that I see are selling well. So I look at my statistics on Cardile and I see what's selling, and then I look at what the phrase was, and then I use that phrase over and over again. I have been using Chat GPT a lot more lately, and this is something that would be a great little exercise to do, would be to use a prompt in chat asking for 20 ideas for different types of everyday cards. And I bet you it will give you 50 of them real quick. So that would be a really good use of ChatGPT. So anything to make you go a little bit faster. And yes, I see the question there about phrases that are copyrighted. Be very careful. So if they're attributed to somebody, then definitely, be careful with that. I've had a cease and desist letter sent to me. So I know what it's like. I don't want to steal from another artist. So I'm very, very careful with that, which is why I stick to these like super generic ones. There are ways that you can check it, but I don't know. I can't remember exactly. And every country is different, by the way. So if you plan to be selling in the US, if you plan to be selling in Europe, you do have to check. Okay.
There's another good question about, are the cards blank inside? So that's a good question because I know depending on where you're posting them will determine whether or not you need sentiments on the inside. But that's a good question thinking about licensing. When you license, did you have to decide also what was on the inside of your cards, or were most of those blank? Because that's something I never kind of thought about.
Yeah, and when I was working for Russ, they came up with the phrases and the inside of the card.
Mhm. Oh, that's
So
good.
yeah, I was okay with that. And there were some magnets that, they'd asked me to do, specific for grandma, specific for mom or whatever. And just to be on the safe side, I only used the ones that they had provided me. So I hope they did their due diligence. I would hope that they did. And
Uh, Nancy had a good one about the matching envelope design, and I've seen that a lot lately with the matching envelope. And I think that would just depend on the company that's licensing if that's something that they do. And then for printing, I don't know anybody that does the envelope printing, but that's an interesting thing to look into.
yeah, I know that Vistaprint does
Oh,
do
cool.
envelope printing. Whether they do an all over envelope, I'm not sure. This would be a great question to ask on Friday to the Anywhere POD people, because they work with all POD sites or a bunch of POD sites. And so they probably will have a better idea about what, let's say Printify has, or what's the other one? Printful, those kind of places. And
Mhm.
one of the things that I want to tell you about Anywhere POD, just so if you're interested in tuning in, what is cool about Anywhere POD is that they work with a bunch of different POD companies. And then what they do is they automate the process of uploading your items. So if you have been one of those people who has been diligently uploading to Cardile or to Greeting Card Universe or Zazzle, or even for your Etsy shop, and you've been doing that, they have an automated process. So I'm saying that real slow so everybody thinks about that for a second and how that could change things. So
That's awesome.
just imagine you're creating the greeting cards, right? That's the fun part. The fun part is creating the cards. I could do 100 cards in a week. But what I hate, absolutely hate, is the uploading. So that would take me another week to do. So this is why I'm pretty excited about Anywhere POD, and I'm going to definitely be listening real close on that day.
And that's another benefit of joining VIP. And that's you'll get all of these lives this week where you get to kind of talk with different experts and different professionals that are working within the greeting card industry and have some really good tips and insights on kind of growing your card libraries and giving you more places to list and kind of just giving you a lot more ideas on how to create more. And I think
Yeah,
that's such a benefit.
sorry to interrupt, but I just saw a question come up there that are they just for Etsy? And no, they will integrate with other places besides Etsy. So they've got it so you can connect to your own Shopify store, for example. I don't know all of the different ones that they do, but they're in the process of growing. So they're really trying to help everybody by making as many places available and helping you to integrate the two things. So I hope that answers the question. Yes, that is great about the POD upload. Yes.
Can I say a thing about the Bible? Because someone asked a verse of the Bible.
Mhm.
I know that publisher own the copyright because they are translate, they
Right.
are modified for modern language. So you have to check
Mhm.
for copyright. They
Okay.
are not free.
Okay. Thanks for mentioning that.
Mm.
I also saw somebody here about asking about the foundations class. I am teaching the foundations class in October. So if you're on my mailing list, which you probably are since you've been here today, you got here today, you'll be getting emails about that starting during this week. I think probably Thursday or Friday, you'll start to get some emails about that. And if you sign up early, there's a big discount at the beginning. So just make sure you're watching those emails if you're interested in the course. No pushy salespeople in this group. If you're interested, you're interested, and I do cover tons in that course. I also have a small Affinity Designer course called Affinity Designer Basics. So there's two options if you wanted to learn more, but you're going to learn a lot this week, a lot. I've got tons of stuff in that VIP. So I mean, VIP is probably the most entry level of the different things, right? Of the three things I offer, it's the least expensive. And I think, I mean, I'm recognizing a lot of your names here, so I think a lot of you have signed up, and then we'll be seeing a lot of each other this week because we will be live each day this week. I'm going to probably have to close this meeting because it will take me forever to get it uploaded if I don't. But I just want everybody to know that tomorrow Lindy and I will be talking about her journey from selling absolutely nothing at the beginning and to almost giving up to where she is today. So she'll be available for questions. She knows everything about Cardile. I mean everything. So if you had a question about Cardile, tomorrow's your day. We used to get a guest speaker from Cardile. We really liked her. She was you would find her in the free challenge like from 2 years ago or a year and a half ago. It wasn't spring. I think it was fall of 2023. You will find Shannon there, and Shannon was our contact with Cardile, and she did a great presentation. But let me tell you, Lindy knows everything that Shannon knows and more because now she's been involved through that whole transition from Cardile to 1-800-Flowers. So that's what we'll be covering tomorrow. I hope to see you there. Do I have any other questions? Nothing. I hope I've covered it all. If you do have other questions, I have a chat on my main website, doloresart.ca. You can always reach me there. And thanks for hanging out. And I'm so happy that you're here with me. And I will see you tomorrow if you're in the VIP. Thanks very
Bye.
much, Lindy. Thanks for the help.
No
Thanks.
problem. Thank you guys for
Thanks,
being here.
everybody. Bye-bye.